Hey losers, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I am here today with a series of books that are on my personal radar for the second half of the year. So these are books coming out in 2024 between July and December, although it was kind of hard to find books for particularly November and December, but I searched, I found some good ones. Oh boy, there are quite a few of them in like the coming months. Like I said, these are on my personal radar. This is not, I could never do a list of all the books, all the horror books that are coming out. What are you guys trying to put me through? I can't possibly do that. It would take weeks for me to track that down. Film that, edit that. I can't do that. I couldn't possibly know all that information, but these are just ones that I have seen in, you know, the past months, ones that I've heard about, ones that I've seen publishers talk about, authors talk about, other readers talk about. I'm trying not to buy every single fucking book I hear about and sounds interesting. I'm trying to not do that anymore. But like I said, these are ones that are just on my radar, ones that look really interesting, and I'd like to tell you about them. Hopefully there are some good ones here that you haven't heard about yet. I could turn you onto some good books and some good authors, and maybe you could do the same for me. You know, if there's ones that I haven't mentioned here that you're really excited about coming out between July and December, let me fucking know. To start out with, this is July. I'm going by month, but I did not sort them out by date, so don't expect that of me, please. Don't expect so much of me, please. First one is Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning. This is a summer slasher. Oh my god, it sounds like it's going to be so much fun. This is about a sitcom star who has some bad behavior while she's intoxicated and kind of gets sent to it seems like a outdoorsy rehab kind of place, but people start to lose their heads. So this sounds fun. I know Josh Winning also wrote Burn the Negative, which I've had and should read soon, but this one sounds so fun. The cover, great, so campy. Punny. So punny. Next, also in July, this is The Body Harvest by Michael J. Seidlinger. This says J.G. Ballard's Crash meets Albert Camus's The Plague in a transgressive horror novel for the TikTok generation. I don't know what any of that fucking means, but I thought I would relay it. So this one, that's not what interests me. What interests me is this fucking synopsis that says, Will is a fraud, Olivia is a wreck. They met at a grief share group and quickly bond over their brokenness. They also have a peculiar hobby. They seek out sickness. Will hunts for the latest strain of flu. Olivia doesn't feel comfortable in her body if she isn't suffering from a fever. They become virus chasers, finding confidence in their ability to conquer every affliction they come across. So that alone is like, what? This sounds so strange. I will say I did not love the other book, Anybody Home. Didn't love it, but this sounds, I want to give it another try, right? I want to give them another try. I want to see what the fuck is going on here. So that's also out in July. Another July book, Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. This is about a script writer in Hollywood, another movie. I love it. Another movie? No, another movie book. It's not a movie. Oh, I guess this isn't for a movie though. This is a screenwriter for a TV show, but he's pressured by his producers to kill off a gay character. The screenwriter doesn't know if he wants to do that. So I'm not sure what happens after that, but I read Chuck Tingle's last novel, Camp Damascus, and really liked it, and I'd really like to read this too. A lot of books with like bloody weapons on the cover recently, and I don't hate it. All right, another July book. This is The Deading by Nicolas Belardes. This one I actually have an E arc of, and this one's been on my radar since the beginning of the year. This is a dystopian horror novel that takes place in a seaside town that has become infected by an ocean-borne contagion, which, like anything when you say like contagion, that is a trigger word for me, but in such a good way. Oh, such a good way. It triggers me to want to participate in this movie, book, fucking whatever, TV show. So there's this contagion from the ocean. It starts with the wildlife, but once the people in this community are infected, they call it deading. They collapse, die, but then rise again. And so it seems like it might have some zombie stuff. It also seems like it goes deeper than just zombie novel where people are fighting zombies. It seems like it goes into like maybe religious, political stuff like that, which is what really draws me into a novel. It says, soon disturbing beliefs in autocratic rituals emerge, overseen by the death-worshipping risers. Some people must choose how to survive, how to find a home, and whether or not to betray those closest to them. Stoked by paranoia and isolation, tensions escalate until the survivors of Baywood must make their escape or become subsumed by the terrifying new normal. That is what makes this novel sound interesting to me. Next, in July, we also have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. This takes place in the late 80s, which is something I like. This is a little bit different than Stephen Graham Jones's other slasher novels because this one is told from the perspective of the slasher killer, Tolley, who is writing his own autobiography. So, I mean, I'm on board for that. I feel like it needs no further explanation. Okay, now here is another book coming out in July. This is being translated into English. This is Pink Slime by Fernanda Trias. And this sounds so fucking weird. Like, it reminds me of like, I don't know, it has whispers of like The Stuff. Another mysterious plague, but also poisonous algae in the sea. And it says, inland, a secretive corporation churns out the only food anyone can afford, a revolting pink paste made of an unknown substance. So, I don't know. And then there's this woman caught up in it all. It talks about like, you know, she's feeling vulnerable. She's got this messy relationship with her ex-husband. There's this boy she nannies. There are terrible threats of danger, and I don't know. Really, just all of this together is what is intriguing to me. Plague. Revolting pink, the stuff that people want or are being forced to eat. They can't afford anything else. It seems like ground up seafood. Almost. Like shrimp paste or fucking something. And then, of course, like a woman just like barely holding on to her life. Those are all things that I love. And this is from a Spanish author, I believe. So a work of translated fiction. I'm here for it. Okay, and then our last book for July. This is I'm Sorry If I Scared You by Mae Murray. This one, I really have not heard anything about it. It sounds intriguing to me, but this is one that I think I'm going to have to see if like others have read it before. It sounds fucking weird though. Okay, listen. This takes place in 2010. It says, the world is preparing for the first lunar eclipse to take place on the winter solstice since the year 1638. Crop circles, strange animals, disappearances, and UFOs permeate the empty countryside of the South. Odette Tucker is a first-generation college student returning home. On the drive home, she endures a pill-induced abortion in a gas station bathroom, a product of a recent rape she's told no one about. On a whim, she rescues the clump of expelled cells in a plastic water bottle. Upon her return home, Odie faces the suppressed feelings of abandonment from her family and her lifelong best friend, Odie is too afraid to admit she's in love with. Possessed by her own disco-loving abortion, she begins to live vicariously through its complete embrace of life, love, sex, violence, and vengeance. What the fuck? This sounds so fucking weird. I think I might just, like, have to buy this, actually. The more I think about it. It sounds weird as fuck. It has no ratings on Goodreads. This comes out in late July. I think that I might just have to eventually buy this because it sounds so fucking weird. Now on to August. This is a short story collection called Mystery Lights by Lena. Valencia. An influencer attempts to derail a viral TV marketing campaign with her violent cult following. A marriage between two ghost hunters is threatened when one of them loses the ability to see her spirits. The lives of a famous painter in the twilight of her career and a teenage UFO enthusiast converge when a mysterious glowing orb appears in their small desert town. A slasher flick screenwriter looking for inspiration escapes a pack of wild dogs only to find herself locked in an SUV with a strange man beside her. Set primarily in the deserts through the American Southwest, Mystery Lights is a debut collection of stories about women and girls at the crossroads of mundane daily life and existential dread. So, something I don't historically love short story collections that much, but something about this, I mean, the cover is what caught my attention, right? But then reading the synopsis, you know, and the mention of, you know, the synopsis of some of these stories, I'm like, what the fuck? I've got to read that. Okay, so also in August we have Sacrificial Animals by Kailee Pedersen. This says it's inspired by the author's own journey being adopted from China and growing up on a farm in Nebraska, which is kind of interesting. So these two brothers are summoned home to visit their father on his deathbed, their abusive father. One brother has an affair with the other brother's wife while they are at their family home. But then that brother, it says, begins to suspect that the wife's interest in him may have sinister, possibly ancient motivations. What? So, seems strange. It seems very strange. And I really, like, don't understand what could be up with this. I don't know. But I want to know, is the thing. I don't know, but I want to know. Alright, also in August, Crushing Snails by Emma E. Murray. This one sounds like it's definitely on the more extreme side. Be aware of that. This is about a 16-year-old burgeoning serial killer. It says her father blames her for her mother's death, dotes on her little sister, and executes increasingly cruel punishments meant to humiliate her. The girl begins to fantasize about regaining some semblance of power on smaller creatures than herself. Not good. It says when her violent games escalate and she accidentally kills an infant while babysitting, she gets a taste of a power she doesn't want to let go of. Her obsession with killing grows, and so does her fascination for Lee, a girl that reminds her of her younger self. So that sounds really interesting. I feel like this was, I think I saw this because, oh yeah, it's put out by Apocalypse Party Press, which is a small publishing company that I've been wanting to try their books. Okay, next in August, The Unmothers by Leslie J. Anderson. So this is a folk horror novel where a journalist comes into this small community. Of course, you need an outsider in a folk horror novel. She is going to the small town of Rayford to investigate a clearly ridiculous rumor that a horse has given birth to a healthy human baby boy. But when she arrives in Rayford, she finds an insular town that is kinder to the horses they are famous for breeding than their own people. But when two horribly mangled bodies are discovered in a field, one horse and one human, she realizes that there might be a real story here. So I've obviously got to read it. It sounds like some weird X-Files episode. I just have to, I need to read that. It sounds so fucking weird. Next on my radar, this is also coming out in August. This is a novella called When you leave, I disappear. Where is the synopsis for this? I didn't just pull this out of my ass. I know I didn't. Oh, here we go. It was right here the whole time. I'm just an idiot. Okay, it says a literary horror novella in which a best-selling author's imposter syndrome draws her into darker and darker world from which she may never escape. It sounds like this is interesting, especially knowing it's a novella. I love a horror novella, and I'm always searching for new ones. Okay, now we're on to September. There are quite a few goodies coming out in September. We're starting with a book called Gaslight by Sarah Shepard and Miles Joris Payrafit. This is about a woman named Rebecca who is living just her normal life until a friend from the past shows up, and this kind of throws everything into turmoil because Rebecca has obviously fled something in her past and created this new life for herself, and now her friend is ruining it all. It has a lot to do with ISB, the cult that Danny has been a part of for 10 years. A group of spiritual seekers living deep in the woods, cut off from their families and friends, led by a charismatic leader who's a master at manipulation and mind control. Is Danny here because she's trying to break free from the cult, or is she on a recruiting mission? It's hard to know when Danny's telling the truth and when she's lying. So I'm very interested in this. All the dynamics here, the building a new life for yourself only to have somebody come in and kind of stir that up. The cult aspect, the not knowing if this person who you care for is telling the truth or if they're lying. I just watched that Hulu documentary about Sherry Papini. It's very interesting. I feel like that is a little bit of that, right? Like what her husband dealt with, wanting to trust this person who you're supposed to be able to trust, but knowing that maybe you don't for some reason, and that can't be a good feeling. Next on my list, this is coming out in September as well. This is Bitter is the Heart by Mina Hardy. It says, haunted by childhood abuse, a woman is forced to care for her cruel elderly mother in this electrifying horror novel exploring generational trauma. It's about a young woman finds out her mother's been kicked out of her assisted living home and refuses to let her mother in her house. So now she has to cope with all this shit, all while her mother is still, you know, refusing to admit that she ever did anything. And it says, Tamara can't shake the feeling that there's something worse than her mother lurking in the shadows. So, I mean, really, this is a trope that I like. Bad mommies. I love it. So that's why I'm interested in this. I love a bad mommy. And speaking of mommies in general, there's also Dearest by Jackie Walters coming out in September. It says, a new mom in need of help opens her door to her long estranged mother, only to invite something much darker inside. So family secrets, a mother that shows up out of the blue, an estranged mother who shows up out of the blue, a new mother who is unsure whether what she's experiencing is delusion or real. I love that in a story. When they have to question themselves. Is that terrible of me? Because I would hate to have to do that myself. That's awful. But God, I love when a character is going through that shit. Okay, next in September, this is The Night Guest by Hildur Knutsdottir. This is a very strange synopsis, but one that I find very intriguing. Our main character is suffering from constant fatigue, but doctors say there's nothing really wrong with her. You know, her friends and her family are like, do you need to change your eating habits? Do you need to exercise more? Do you need to practice better sleep hygiene? She tries to follow their advice, buying everything from vitamins to sleeping pills to a step counting watch. Nothing helps. Until one night, she falls asleep with her watch on and wakes up to find she's walked over 40,000 steps in the night. So, what is happening to her in the night? I don't know. I have to find out. I actually have an early copy of this that I need to read. Next in September, So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. This is her new book. A vampire novel, that's really all you need to fucking tell me. This is about two best friends on a wine tasting trip. That goes wrong. It says a seductive novel about how it's never too late to find satisfaction, even though it might taste different than expected. And oh my god, I just love it. I'm gonna read that. Oh, for sure. That's a pre-order for sure. Oh, and this next one I'm so interested in. This is Such Lovely Skin by Tatiana Schlote-Bonne. I don't know about those last names, but I do know that I want to read this fucking book. It sounds so weird. It says, an evil video game, a lying Twitch streamer, a demon hungry for her secrets. So, after spending the summer racked with guilt about causing the car accident that killed her little sister, ambitious video gamer and chronic liar Viv returns to Twitch streaming. She never told her parents the truth about the accident, but she hopes that maybe making it big in streaming and giving the money to them is penance enough for her mistakes. The weekend before school starts, Viv finds the perfect horror game to make her Twitch comeback. And during an offline practice run, an NPC asks Viv for a secret. She decides to tell them the secret about her sister's death, since a game can never share her secret. In doing so, she accidentally welcomes a demonic mimic into her life. So, an evil doppelganger. I love it. I just, and the cover of this is so clever. I love it. I love it. Also in September, God, there are so many September books. We Came to Welcome You by Vincent Tirado. This is a suburban horror novel, and you know I love those. So this is about a couple who moves into a gated community. There are two women, so they, you know, pique the interest of their neighbors. They're all welcomed into the neighborhood, but their neighbors seem a little like too friendly, like, you know, things that are maybe going out of their way a little too much to be friendly. There's a homeowners association to deal with, which of course, you know, not very many people love. And then it says, suddenly a number of strange occurrences cause Soul to wonder if her social paranoia isn't built on something more sinister. Yet Soul's fears are dismissed as her partner, Alice, embraces their new home and becomes increasingly worried instead about Soul's drinking and manic behavior. So it seems like the couple they're maybe fighting with each other instead of with the things that are really causing the issues in their relationship, like their creepy neighbors. I don't know, but I do love like the suburban horror, suburban thriller type books. I fucking love that shit. So I hope that one's good. Okay, also coming out in September is The Devil by Name. This is the sequel to Fever House, which was just like such a weird fucking book. This takes place 5 years after that, and if you want to know more, you really just gotta, you know, go look it up yourself. It's so fucking weird. It's a strange book. Okay, next in September is Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is about a woman who is dating a man, not because she wants to date him, but mostly because she wants to get in with his mother, who is the editor-in-chief of a fashion magazine. Finally, she gets invited to a family function, but it says, once all the family members are on the island and the ferry has departed, things take a dark turn. So it also says The Menu meets Ready or Not, both movies I've enjoyed. I know not everybody loves those comps that they do for novels, but I tend to like them. I like to just see, even if I don't find them accurate, I like them. Okay, also in September, a dark academia novel, An Academy for Liars. This is by Alexis Henderson, and this is about a girl who gets a phone call inviting her to take an entrance exam for a school of hidden magic in Savannah, which, if you've not been to Savannah, Georgia, I don't know if I've never lived there, but I've visited there twice, and it is one of the most, like, beautiful places I've ever been to in the United States. Not that I have traveled everywhere, but very, very fucking gorgeous. She has been chosen because she has an innate gift of persuasion, the ability to wield her will like a weapon, using it to control others, and in rare cases, matter itself. It says as she continues in her studies, she starts to uncover more about the secret world she has entered into, including the disquieting history of Drayton College itself and the way her mentor's tragic and violent past intertwines with it. She is increasingly disturbed by what she learns, for it seems that the ultimate test is to embrace absolute power without succumbing to corruption, and it's a test she's terrified she's going to fail. Will she fail it? I don't know, but I want to find out. Next and final in September, this is Tiny Threads by Lilliam Rivera. It says, a young woman gets her dream job working for a famous designer and discovers the dark side of the glamorous world of fashion in this gorgeously sinister novel of supernatural suspense. This woman, Samara, gets a job with a legendary designer, but it's not long before her dream life turns into a nightmare. She starts to hear voices in the dark. Her psyche is unraveling. It seems like the fashion house she is working for may have been built on a foundation of secrets and lies. So that's one that I am interested in. Okay, now on to October. We've got Model Home by River Solomon. I've been wanting to try their books. This says, the three Maxwell siblings keep their distance from the lily-white gated enclave outside Dallas where they grew up. When their family moved there, they were the only black family in the neighborhood. The neighbors acted nice enough, but right away bad things, scary things, like the strange and the unexplainable, began to happen in their house. Maybe it was some cosmic trial, a demonic rite of passage to the upper middle class. Whatever it was, the Maxwells, steered by their formidable mother, stayed put, unwilling to abandon their home. Traumas and terrors be damned. But as adults, the siblings could get away, leaving their parents all alone. But when the news of their parents' death arrives, they're all forced to return and to confront their family's past and present to find out what happened while they were away. It was not a natural death for their parents, but was it supernatural? So, a haunted house story. I really love the cover of this one. So good. In October, we have American Rapture by C.J. Leede. This is another virus book. There are a lot of those coming out the second half of this year, isn't there? It says, a virus is spreading across America, transforming the infected and making them feral with lust. Sophie, a good Catholic girl, must traverse the hellscape of the Midwest to try to find her family while the world around her burns. Along the way, she discovers there are far worse fates than dying a virgin. This one sounds great. I love anything that brings religion into it. Like that. I love it. Next in October is The Queen by Nick Cutter. I'm hoping this one's better than The Handyman Method, which I didn't love. This is about a woman who wakes up to find a new phone on her door. She opens it up and finds a text from her best friend who has been missing for over a month. Most people think that she is dead. It says, Margaret and Charity have been lifelong friends. They share everything, know the most intimate details about one another, but Charity carries a secret. The missing friend, Charity, carries a secret that even she was unaware of, a secret engraved into her DNA helix. For Charity is also known as Subject 6, the crown jewel of Project Athena, a clandestine and unorthodox gene manipulation experiment, the brainchild of tech titan Rudyard Crate. So, I don't know what the fuck any of that means, but I'm hoping that since it's a Nick Cutter, it will be a good one. I think the last one in October, this is I Believe in Mr. Bones by Max Booth III. This one sounds so much fun. It says, the email subject line reads, do you believe in Mr. Bones? The recipient, Daniel Adams, one half of the Texas small press known as Fiendish Books. co-run by his wife, Eileen. Despite being closed for submissions, curiosity gets the best of him and he takes a look at the anonymous author's bizarre manuscript, only to find himself obsessed with the titular Mr. Bones, a mysterious entity rumored to steal your bones while you sleep, one by one, until he's replaced your entire skeleton with an unknown substance. But is Mr. Bones real, or has Daniel unintentionally summoned him? Is he a tulpa? Or, as Eileen suspects, has he finally cracked from stress and lost his mind? So is this a meta horror novel from Max Booth III? I think it is. It sounds so fucking weird and silly. This is a maybe on my list. I heard about it, and then when I searched for it, what came up is like a what do they call it? A Kickstarter campaign for it. So I don't know. It also is like it's a Kickstarter through Apex Books, which like that's a publisher and they have books for sale, but like this one is not on there. So I really don't know about this, but it sounds interesting. It's the Map of Lost Places, which is edited by Cherie Renee Thomas and Leslie Connor. It says, a travel guide to hauntings and the haunted places, to lands in their own power, and to the communities that spring up from these strange realms. So that sounded interesting to me. That I had marked down as being published in November, but I can't remember like where I found the details for that. So I don't fucking know. Also in November, we have The Swarm by Andy Marino. This is like a bug story, which I love. An insect apocalypse. It says, it begins with cicadas, it will end with the swarm. When millions of insects appear unexpectedly off the rhythm of their 17-year cycle, Detective Vicky Pedersen is investigating a bizarre killing in her sleepy hometown. At the same time, a pair of hired guns work to free their client's daughter from a shadowy cult. As these events intertwine, things begin to spiral out of control. Attacks by insects, culty things, I don't know, but it sounds interesting. And then my last book here, to be published in December. This is Private Rites by Julia Armfield. I've been wanting to try her books for some time now. This is a King Lear retelling. Besides Romeo and Juliet, I've never read Shakespeare. I don't think I've read another single Shakespeare. Is King Lear Shakespeare? I think so. I could be wrong about that. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? In this world, it's been raining for so long that the land has reshaped itself and people are doing arcane rituals and using strange religions. We're following three sisters who are doing weird shit. It says, more estranged than ever, the sisters' lives spin out of control. Irene's relationship is straining at the seams. Isla's ex-wife keeps calling, and cynical Agnes is falling in love for the first time. But something even more sinister might be unfolding, something related to their mother's long-ago disappearance and the strangers who have always seemed unusually interested in the sisters' lives. So I really don't know fucking shit about this, but I've wanted to read Julia Armfield's books, and it's coming out in December, and hopefully I'll read it. And that, my friends, finally wraps up the list of books that are on my radar for the second half of the year. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this is not an all-inclusive list. I know there are more books out there coming out this year. These are just ones that I personally am going to be keeping my eye on. Some I'm going to pre-order, some I'm going to see if my library has, some I'm gonna probably wait and see how they're received before buying them. Some I might not get to at all. But I would like to know if there's any books coming out in between July and December that you're really excited about. I'd love to hear, especially if they're from like indie authors, small presses, things where it's just really harder to find. Unless you're specifically following those authors or those presses, it's very likely that we will not hear about those, which is really a bummer. So if you have any on your radar from, like I said, indies, love to hear about them. But in general, anything that you're looking forward to for the second half of the year, I'd love to hear about it. And I'm sure, you know, fellow viewers would like to hear about it too. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Goodbye.